Welcome to the channel. Today I will tell a story about what a casual acquaintance of a schoolgirl with an adult guy in a nightclub can lead to. Enjoy the show. Young Nicole is a schoolgirl who lives with her father Steve, stepmother Laura, and younger brother Toby. The girl leads an ordinary and unremarkable carefree life. Nicole has a best friend, her name is Margot. The girls often secretly talk about their nighttime fantasies. Margot invites Nicole to go to a club tonight. But the girl refuses, as today her father has planned a family trip to a concert, and Nicole wants to spend time with her family. However, we later learn that Steve has received a call from work and has been summoned to Vancouver for an urgent meeting, and in 3 hours Steve has to leave on a plane. The whole family is puzzled, but Steve reminds them that his job feeds their family. Nicole resents her father and retires to her bedroom. The girl immediately calls Margot to tell her that she is also going to the club tonight. Later, in the evening at the club, Margot sees some guys she knows and goes out to socialize with them. Nicole is left alone, but at the same moment David approaches the girl and they get acquainted. They like each other at first sight. A fight breaks out in the club and chaos erupts, someone calls the police and people panic and run away. David takes Nicole's hand and they run out onto the roof together. A couple descends a fire escape and runs away from the police. David brings Nicole to admire the view of the city. They sit on a bench and David charms Nicole with how romantic he is. David talks about his family, how much he loves his parents, talks about his happy childhood. Nicole listens intently, and then she tells David that her first impression of the guy was a little different, and he was nicer than she expected. The couple kisses, and Nicole reminds him that she needs to be home by 12. David sets the girl's wristwatch back 30 minutes, and says they have all the time they need. Nicole ends up coming home at 2 in the morning. All this time, the girl was waiting for her stepmother, who was outraged that Nicole didn't even warn her that she would be late. Nicole tries to justify herself by saying that her watch is broken and goes to her bedroom. Laura asks the girl to wash off all her makeup, because she looks like a girl of easy behavior. For the next few days, David and Nicole see each other every day. The guy picks up the girl after school, they walk around in a hug and kiss around corners. In general, everything is as vanilla as a young schoolgirl could imagine. David unexpectedly informs Nicole that he wants to meet her family. The next day Nicole introduces David to her loved ones. The guy easily gains the trust of the girl's family and volunteers to help Laura in the garden. Even Steve takes a shine to the guy. David shows himself as a sensitive and polite young man. A little later, Steve is working in his office and David goes to wash his hands in the bathroom. At this time, Margot walks in and invites Steve to go to the fair with them. While talking to the man, Margot turns around so that her skirt is pulled up, and Steve stares at Margot's naked body. David saw this and smiled strangely. But Steve didn't pay any attention to it, but only reminded the guys that Nicole had to be home by 12 at night. Before leaving, David sets the clock in Steve's office back half an hour, just like he did with Nicole's clock. At the fair, the couple actually merge with each other and grow closer and closer. At this time, because of the translated clocks, Steve does not manage to send his work documents on time, and he is called back to Vancouver. Laura does not like it very much, and in order not to offend her spouse, Steve calls Laura with him. The next day, Steve and Laura fly to Vancouver and warn their daughter not to invite anyone to the house. But as soon as the parents leave, Nicole immediately calls David. However, the guy is not ready to come right now, because he is busy with some business with his friends, and says that he can come a little later. Nicole gives the guy the code to the front door and says that she will be waiting for him anytime. Later that night, David arrives at Nicole's house. The guy walks into her bedroom. The couple confesses their love for each other. The next day, Nicole tells her best friend, Harry, about it, and then they hug goodbye. David, who arrives at that moment, pounces on Harry and roughly pushes Nicole away, which later gives the girl a black eye. David beats Harry in public, which scares the girl. Afterwards, the guy reaches out to the girl, but she asks David to leave. Nicole did not speak to David for several days in a row. The guy tried to apologize to the girl, he left her letters, notes, flowers, but Nicole did not react in any way. Nevertheless, although the girl kept silent, she missed David a lot. During the night, Steve and Laura heard Nicole crying in her room. Laura had already helped Nicole hide the bruise from her father, which made stepmother a little closer to Nicole. Laura sets off to comfort her daughter. Nicole had previously said that she got the bruise accidentally in gym class, but now she is telling Laura everything. At this time, her father walks in, who happens to notice an empty rubber band package under the bed. After realizing how Nicole got the bruise, Steve forbids her to see David. A little later, by the pool, Nicole and Margot are discussing the situation, but David arrives and she leaves. But David manages to talk to Nicole. The guy tells her how much he loves her, that she has become the meaning of life to him, and he was just trying to protect her. In the end, Nicole forgives David after all. A little while later, Steve came home from work and saw David playing by the pool with Nicole and Laura. Steve didn't like David very much, and the girls thought it was because of jealousy. However, Steve notices more and more oddities in David's behavior that alarm him. Steve finds out that all David's stories about his family are lies, because in fact he was transferred from one orphanage to another until he turned 18. And now nothing is known about the guy, no studies, no housing, no job. Steve meets David outside Nicole's school. The man informs him that he forbids him to see his daughter. But David calls Steve an insecure man whose wife is already ready to give herself to David, and afterwards sends him away in a rude manner. Then, after Steve leaves, David punches himself in the chest several times and tells Nicole that Steve beat him up. The girl is very angry with her father and doesn't give him a chance to explain anything. Nicole leaves with David and they spend the night together. Afterwards, Nicole decides to go back to her parents after all. But when she gets to the house, Nicole sees that her parents are still awake, and the desire to enter the house disappears. The girl takes the car and goes to David's house. There she sees several parked cars outside the house and hears loud music. It is obvious that there is some kind of party going on inside the house. The girl looks out the window and sees her friend Margot riding in a Logan. But then David shows up and roughly grabs Margot by the hair. Later, the guy picks up and carries the girl to his room. Nicole goes to her house in shock and tears. The girl apologizes to her parents for her actions. The next day, David appears in the school cafeteria and approaches the girl. Nicole yells at him to back off and stay away from her. David, not realizing what has happened, grabs Nicole's arm. However, her friend, Harry, stands up for the girl and David lets her go. After school, Nicole is visited by her best friend, Margot. The girls go out to talk. Nicole is shocked at how well Margot is holding up, pretending that nothing happened at all. This scares Nicole the most. The girl realizes that she doesn't know her best friend at all and decides to put a stop to their friendship. Margot tries to justify herself by saying that she was on pills, that David forced her, and asks her not to leave her. But Nicole walks away. As Margot was walking back from Nicole's, David catches up with her. He intimidates Margot and asks what Margot told Nicole. The girl tearfully yells that she didn't tell her anything, but Nicole now knows everything. In parting, David says that it's in her best interest to make things right, and if she doesn't, she'll be very hurt. The next day, after school, David tracks down Harry and slashes the guy in a deserted place. Then Steve leaves work and finds his car wrecked and a threatening note from David. Steve immediately borrows the car, gets David's address, and heads to his house. At David's house, while no one is there, Steve breaks down the front door. Inside the house, the man discovers that David is obsessed with Nicole. David keeps pictures, a bracelet labeled David's girl. Steve also finds a picture of the family with David's head glued on instead of Steve's. This causes a fit of rage and he breaks everything he finds in David's house. Later, David and his gang return home to find their house destroyed. The gang realizes who did it and is ready to take revenge on their abuser. A man is on the phone with the police. Suddenly, someone knocks on the door. Laura goes to the door and there is Margot. She tells her that Harry is dead, having been found beaten in the woods. Then a dog's head is thrown into the house. All the while, Steve is talking to the police, but someone cuts the phone line. Nicole tells them that David knows the code to the door, and Steve manages to lock the door with a mechanical lock at the last minute. David is standing outside the door, saying that things could have been different, but now it's better to just let him in the house. David's gang surrounds the house from all sides, throwing rocks at the windows and trying to get inside the house. Nicole signals to the guard, who, seeing the flashing lights, first tries to call the house. The guard then heads toward the house in a car. Seeing David, the guard immediately gets out of the car and orders him to put his hands on the hood. At that moment, Logan attacks them, but the guard dodges. Steve runs out of the house and beats up David and Logan. Suddenly, the guard is shot by someone, and Steve tries to run into the house. However, the man fails, and the gang grabs and ties him up and goes into the house with him. Meanwhile, Nicole's younger brother, Toby, climbs out the window and breaks into the security guard's car, then calls the police. The gang guy notices Toby and shoots at the car. However, Toby hits the pedal and flies into the offender. At this time, Logan sneaks into the girls' room and attacks Nicole. However, Margot dares to defend her friend and pounces on Logan. But the guy proves to be stronger. David takes Steve up to Nicole's bedroom so that the girl can say goodbye to her father. The guy is about to shoot Steve, but Nicole yells at him not to. David says he wants to be with Nicole forever. At this time, Toby brings the key to the handcuffs and frees Laura, while the woman quietly frees Steve. The man pounces on David, but the guy proves to be stronger. David is already looming over Steve, but suddenly Nicole stabs. Steve also gets to his feet, and another fight breaks out between the men, in which Steve manages to throw David out the window. Everyone is shocked by the incident, and David will never be able to get up and hurt anyone again. Nicole hugs her father, and the police soon arrive. This is the end of the movie. Thank you all for watching this video to the end. Give this video a like. Write in the comments what you think about this movie, and see you in new videos.